Good day, students. In this presentation, we are going to look at the phase requirements for the intermediate and senior phase specialization in the B.Ed degree. So in other words, we're going to go through what is required in order for you to be able to complete your degree and graduate. Now, the first thing you need to understand is the number of credits that you have to obtain. For the Bachelor of Education degree in general, the minimum number of credits that you need is 512. You cannot graduate with fewer credits. You can, however, graduate with more. So it is possible for some of you that you might have picked up a few extra credits, maybe because you changed your specialization, either your phase specialization or your senior phase specializations, or possibly you did a module that you weren't supposed to and have picked up extra credits along the way. Extra credits are not a problem. Fewer are. So remember, please, that you need a minimum of 512 credits. Secondly, the Bachelor of Education degree is a 4-year qualification. And what this means is that you have to be registered for the qualification for 8 semesters. So in other words, you cannot graduate if you've only been registered for 7 semesters. We have to have you recorded as having 8. So for those of you who started the B.Ed degree as your first choice, so straight out of grade 12, you registered for the B.Ed degree, you should be going into your 7th and 8th semesters at the moment, and this should not be a problem. Where it sometimes is a problem is for students who have suspended their studies in the last 3 years. So if in first, second or third year you did not register for 1 semester, it could be that you have only completed 5 semesters so far and are now registering for your 6th and 7th semesters. Please be aware of the fact that you cannot then complete your degree this year in order to graduate at the beginning of next year. You have to be registered for 8 semesters. So if you are currently only registering in 2021 for semesters 6 and 7, then you will have to come back in 2022 to register for an 8th semester. Now, for students who started either another qualification at UKZN before transferring into education, or who possibly started a qualification at another institution, say UNISA or the University of Pretoria or any other institution, and you transferred into the B.Ed degree, you might possibly have brought credits with you. So if when you registered, you transferred to UKZN into education, if you applied for credits based on modules that you had passed in another institution or in another degree program, and we have recognized you with credits, then it is possible that we have also recognized a semester or 2 where you were registered for your previous qualification. But we only recognize semesters if we exempt you and recognize a fair number of credits. So if you came in and we recognized one module only and exempt you from 1 module in our degree, then you do not have any semesters recognized. But if we recognized and exempt you from 3 or more modules, then we probably also recognized your registration for 1 or more semesters. These semesters are referred to as deemed semesters. So for students who transferred in and possibly started off at second year level in the degree program, in the B.Ed program, then it is possible that we have also recognized you as having deemed semesters. Okay, so whether or not you have deemed semesters, we have to have you recorded as for 8 semesters in total. So this might include deemed semesters for students who transferred. Finally, each phase in the B.Ed has a number of curriculum requirements that are spelt out in the College of Humanities Handbook, and you have to know and satisfy the curriculum requirements for your phase. Now, there are similarities in some of the rules or requirements across the different phases, but there are also differences. So please make sure that you are clear and you understand the requirements for your specific phase so that you do not get confused by the requirements of other phases. So here we are going to look specifically at the requirements for the senior and intermediate phase. Now, the first curriculum requirement relates to core modules, and this is actually the same for all students in all phases of the B.Ed degree, with one exception, which I'll go through just now. Now, the first set of core modules are the Education Studies modules. So most of you by now should have completed EdStuds 210, 220, 310, and 320, and you will be registering for EdStuds 410 and 420 this year. Secondly, there are the Professional Studies modules, and again, most of you should have passed Prof Studies 110, 120, and 210 already, and you should be registering in the second semester for your final Prof Studies modules. Now, for your specific phase, the module is Prof Studies 220. Now, the module that you do this year, your final Prof Studies module, is not the same for all phases. So for this specific phase, the correct module is Prof Studies 220. Finally, you've got your teaching practice modules. So hopefully everybody has passed teaching practice 120, 220, and 320 now, and should be registering for 420. Please note that if you haven't passed teaching practice 320, then you are required to register for that one online, and you may need to liaise with Mrs. Van Wyk about the registration of 420. Then in first year, you should all have completed computer literacy, academic literacy in English, which we normally just refer to as ALE, and then one foundation module. So most of you by now should either have passed Africa in a Globalizing World, or Diversity and Learning, or Perspectives on Human Nature, or Mathematics 110. It is also possible that you might have done critical inquiry in ECD. So you have to have completed at least one of those modules by now, and if you have not yet done so, you must register one of them this year. The second requirement that you have to meet is that of your languages. Now, because you are going to be teaching possibly in a primary school in the intermediate phase, it means that you will be a language teacher and that you will teach 2 languages. Because of this, you are required to do 2 modules of English as well as 2 modules of a second language. Now, in the context of the B.Ed, the term as second language refers to a language other than English. So, you have already done ALE as a compulsory module. You then have to also do either English language course, commonly called ELC, or English Communication 110. Now, it is possible that you could do both of these because the content and the outcomes of these 2 modules are completely different. But you have to do one. Then for the isiZulu, you have to either do conversational isiZulu 110 and 120 if you are not a mother tongue speaker, or if you are a mother tongue speaker of isiZulu, you would do communication in isiZulu 110 as well as 120. Now you will notice I also have Afrikaans Communicasie 110 and 120 listed, although most of you will not have had an opportunity to elect this as your second language. This used to be offered within the B.Ed program, so if we have any students who started their degree quite a number of years ago, left and have come back to complete their degree, it is possible that you may have Afrikaans Communicasie 110 as well as 120 as your second language modules. Notice, for your second language, the two modules have to be in the same language. So it would not have been possible to do one module of Afrikaans and one module of isiZulu. You need two modules in the same language. Now, the other thing you need to be aware of is, of course, the UKZN language policy. The policy at UKZN is that every student registered for an undergraduate degree has to complete a module of isiZulu. So obviously, if you have done the conversational isiZulu 110 or communication in isiZulu 110, then you have met this requirement as well. For students who did two Afrikaans Communicasie modules, you would also have needed to do the module of Zulu if you started your degree after the language policy was implemented. For that, you need to look back at the handbook that corresponds to your first year of registration in the B.Ed degree. Now, the third group of modules are your intermediate phase specialization modules, and these cover your primary maths 210 and 310, and of course 310 will be registered this year. You have your language and literacy 220 as well as 320, and again you will be registering for language and literacy 320 this year. Then there are the learning area studies 210 and 220 modules. 210 is the arts and culture and social sciences learning area studies module, whereas 220 is the life orientation and EMS learning area studies module. Finally, you have learning area studies 310, which is the natural science and technology learning area studies module, and that one is done in first semester of fourth year. So most of you will be registering for that this year. For the senior phase part of your degree, you have two learning area specializations, and one of these has to be either mathematics, natural sciences, or technology education. It is essential that you complete one of these three specializations. If you do both of your learning areas from these three, that is great. There's no problem with that. But you have to have at least one learning area being either mathematics or natural science or technology. The other learning area can be any of the ones that we have on offer that are taught in the senior phase. For each of your two learning areas, you have to complete the 3 content modules and the 2 method modules as prescribed in the college handbook. And I will go through those modules on the next slide. Finally, we have elective modules, and in this qualification, you only actually pick up one elective module. Now, the reason for that is the purpose of elective modules is simply to get you to the required number of credits for the degree. So your elective module is there to get you to 512 credits. Now, for students who did not pass either core mathematics or mathematical literacy at grade 12 level with a mark of 40% or higher, you were required to do basic mathematics. So in other words, this would be your so-called elective module. Now, if you started off maybe in senior FET or FET and did mathematics for life and teaching in your first year before switching to this particular phase, then that would be accepted as well. So if your mark for mathematics, core mathematics or maths literacy was below 40% in grade 12, then you should have done either basic mathematics or possibly mathematics for life and teaching. This is a requirement of the government for teachers. So please make sure that you have met this requirement. It is one that we do check when we are doing ERS checking to see whether or not your degree complete. And we have occasionally come across students who have not met this requirement, and they have not graduated with the rest of their year group. They had to come back the following year and pick it up. So please ensure that if you did not pass mathematics, core mathematics or maths literacy with 40% or higher, then please make sure that you complete or have completed one of those two modules. If you did get over 40% for maths or maths literacy, then please do not register for this module. This module is not an elective module for everybody. It is only there for the students who need it in order to graduate. For the rest of you, your elective module can be any module that fits into the second semester, and most of you probably picked this up in the second semester in your third year, so in 2020. And that elective module can literally be any other module that we offer within our curriculum. So it could be an FET content module, it could have been a learning area studies content module, it could have been a module that falls under the foundation phase. So you could possibly have chosen to do, say, Maths 110 or Lang and Lit 120. So there are other possibilities. You may even have asked to do an ECD module. We do not mind what you have done, as long as it was a 16 credit module and that it was not basic maths or maths for life in teaching if you had passed mathematics in grade 12 with a reasonable mark. Now, for those of you who might be unsure about the learning areas, I've listed here on this slide the modules for each of the learning areas. So for some of them, specifically natural science, arts and culture, and life orientation, the modules are very easy to identify. So for example, natural science, its content is 110, 120, 210, and then you have natural science method 1 and method 2, and arts and culture and life orientation are similarly named. Technology is also fairly straightforward because you get technology education 111, 121, 220, method 1 and method 2. For mathematics and the languages, English and isiZulu, these modules, both the content and the methods, actually come from the FET specializations. So you do the 210, 220 and 310 content modules, as well as the method 1 and method 2 from the FET program. The two learning areas that students sometimes get confused with are social sciences and EMS. Now, for social sciences, you have to do geography 210, history 210, geography method 1, and history method 1. Those 4 modules are compulsory. But then you have a choice for the third content module. You can either do your geography 220 or you can do history 220 instead. But you have to have 3 content and 2 methods. EMS is a similar situation to social sciences. It's a mixture of 2 subjects. So for EMS, you have to have accounting 210 and business management 210, as well as accounting method 1 and business management method 1. You then have a choice for the third content module. You can complete either accounting 220 or business management 220. So those are the modules that we look for when checking to see if you have completed your learning areas. Any deviations from these has to be approved by the relevant discipline or module coordinators, and it has to be recorded. So there are situations where we have allowed a student to deviate from one of these. So for example, maybe the student could not complete geography 210 in the first semester because of an overload of credits, but was able to pick up geography 320, well, let's say geography 220 instead, and then they did history 210 and 220. A deviation like that, you cannot just do on your own. It has to be approved by the module lecturer. So please don't just go and pick up any combination of geography and history or any combination of accounting and business management and think that is okay. These are the modules that we look for when we are checking you for degree complete. So if you have not done the correct modules, then what we check for is whether or not you have been exempt from the required module. So if a lecturer has given you permission to do, say, Geography 220 instead of Geography 210, together with the two History 210 and 220 modules, then we will look to see if they have completed an application for exemption form, and that would be an exemption without credit. Now, if the paperwork has been completed, it should be recorded against your academic record, and we should be able to pick that up during ERS checking. But if you have just spoken to somebody and gone and done the wrong module and have not completed the required paperwork to record that that was an actual decision that was negotiated and allowed by the relevant lecturers, then you will find yourself not completing your degree this year. So please make sure that you have completed the correct modules for the learning areas and that you have completed either natural science, technology, or mathematics. If you follow these rules, then you should find yourself completing your degree. If you do try and deviate, then you could find yourself in trouble. So please have a look at what you've completed so far, compare it to what I've spoken about here, identify anything that is outstanding or missing, and try to pick up those modules this year so that hopefully you can complete your degree and graduate. All the best. Good luck for this year.